Welcome back, guys, to another playoff match, SBT Season 4 in the B League. This is a round 1 match still, where we have Zombie versus Beater. Zombie and his Victoria Victinis against Beater and his Maryland Mudsdale. Two very strong coaches in this game, and I think they both are very adept in the teams that they've drafted thus far. Throughout the season, they've come to really know their teams. And I believe the first time these two have fought during the regular season, Zombie actually took the match in his favor. It came down really close, though, I believe, with that Alakazam doing a lot of work. But Alakazam was brought again. We'll have to see what strategies these two end up going with this time around. Should be a really good match, so I hope you guys enjoy. Whoever actually wins this match, by the way, guys, ends up bumping up to A-League. So good luck to both of the coaches, of course. And let's see what they end up leading off with. Of course, Landorus is always a good lead on Zombie's end there. Even something like the Ditto, try to maybe Ditto something on Beater's end there. Aggron could lead. There's a lot of leads on Beater's end. I think Zygarde is actually a very nice lead, but we'll see what they end up going with. It looks like Beater does go with that Aggron lead, maybe to get up some rocks. And of course, Zombie leads with his Landorus. Very nice camera lead, of course. Yes, this Aggron could have Toxic or Ice Punch or something like that, but I think really these two want to just get up some hazards on each other. And, Zombie can obviously remove them with Lottie, maybe, or even this Landorus, but Beater does not have the option of clearing his side of the field with hazards at all. So I think Zombie really just wants to get up his rocks. It'd be very nice for him because he's just able to keep those up, and Beater will continuously take chip, especially with that Chandelure being a thing. So let's see what they end up going with here. I think Zombie might have anticipated an Ice Punch coming out. Miltank ends up coming in, which I think might be physically defensive. Chandelure comes out, potentially thinking that he's going to take like a Gyro Ball or something, or maybe even some hazards. He ends up going for the Fire Blast to obviously scout, doing some damage to the Toxapex. I'm not sure that damage, but it did do a lot. I'm not too sure if this is choiced into anything, but I think Beater really just wanted to get in the Chandelure before rocks went up there. So he just ends up doing that. Now this Chandelure could actually just be Calm Mind with Psychic. That could be a thing. That could be very scary, of course, because this Chandelure needs to be around for that Latios later. So I'm not too sure if Beater wants to preserve this. It could be Scarf. It could have Trick, of course. Let's see what Zombie ends up doing here. He does get burned by that Fire Blast, unfortunately for him. And it doesn't look like he has the leftovers, so Miltank ends up coming in here. I think he might have the Heal Bell. And that was a crit knockoff, or of course it's burned, but he does end up losing the leftovers there. So this Miltank could potentially get up his own hazards now. It does look like he does. So Aggron might not actually have any hazards on his side, but Ferrothorn might be getting up some spikes here. Ooh, some hazard stacking going on. This is very bad for Beater, of course, because he doesn't have any removal on his side. Does have a Magic Guard, of course, but that Shadow Ball looks like it's close to a KO. I think Beater might actually want to risk it, but then again, I think it's very risky had he gone for that, because to be fair, Zombie would have had to continuously try to heal stall out there. Zombie getting really unlucky, unfortunately, with these defense drops, because he's not able to stay in on the Chandelure spamming Shadow Ball. And of course, nothing really wants to switch in here, but of course, I think Sylveon might be more defensive here. In comes the Miltank, actually, as Beater wants to double out. Now this Miltank, I'm pretty sure could have taken a hit, but not from something like a Spec Sylveon, if that's what Zombie ended up bringing. We do see the Milk Drink coming off the Miltank. Now we did see Rocks Milk Drink. It could be Heal Bell, I'm assuming, and I don't know if he has anything really touch this Ferrothorn, because he needs coverage for that Latios. We could see maybe a Thunder Wave, of course, but this Ferrothorn really just wants to continuously stacking hazards on Beater. So it's very nice for him, because once again, Beater is swapping out, swapping in, going to take too much chip, and I don't think that he really can afford that Chandelure comes back in, takes a lot from hazards, and we're going to see some more spikes, of course. Now, the issue here is that Zombie doesn't switch in well to the Chandelure, but I think Chandelure has to go for a fire-type move here, unfortunately. We'll see what he ends up doing here. Sylveon comes back in to take this Fire Blast. It does not take it well at all. We do see a critical hit. Very unfortunate for Zombie's end. That might have been big. Getting a lot of hacks for sure. That was gigantic, that Fire Blast crit. Lottie ends up coming in. I think Zombie is getting a little bit frustrated at this point and really just wants to go for that sweep, because now that Beater has rocks and spikes on his side of the field, it's going to be really hard for him to swap into this Latios. I don't even really think he has a good switch in. Besides that Aggron, of course, is still at full health, but it's going to come back in and basically be at 75%. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Drapion could also be a nice response, to be fair. So maybe this Latios wants to just straight up go for like a sub or a Calm Mind or something. But I think Beater doesn't swap out at all against this Latios. I know that this thing is potentially scarfed and he wants to go for a Fire Blast. If he does swap out and gives Latios free setup, then that's just not good for him. So it does look like he actually stays in, and so he wasn't actually scarfed. Potentially Specs then, and I was just getting it wrong. We just see Latios taking out that Chandelure, so he doesn't have that immediate. We do see the Reflect type coming off of Latios, but Beater was very good in having the Dragon Tail to make sure that Latios did not just stay in there and set up on him. And of course, Landers ends up coming in with the Earth Power, because it will be doing a lot more damage to something like a physically defensive Aggron. And that Miltank was potentially physically defensive, so he wasn't able to take that Earth Power on at all. I was pretty convinced that Landers can take out this that Aggron at that range that was at with the Earth Power, but maybe he was more especially defensive. We do see the Magnet Rise there, so very nice on Beater's end, but of course in front of a Ferrothorn, I'm not too sure if that was the right call, because Ferrothorn is continuously just going to set up. We see the Dragon Tail, of course, and something's going to seed this Aggron right back up. Of course, if Beater lets this Aggron go down, Latios becomes very nice, and Zombie's just getting some HP back on this Toxapex through Regenerator and through that Dragon Tail really doesn't do too much. But now Zombie actually gains control of Beater's Aggron with Ditto coming in. So very nice for him actually, because now he could potentially just Dragon Tail this Zygarde right out, unless this Zygarde wants to sub potentially. Let's see what he ends up going for. He actually goes for the Glare. Definitely not what Zombie was anticipating at all. And we do see the Corkscrew Crash. It doesn't really KO the Latios, and we see the Dragon Pulse KOing the Zygarde. This is coming down pretty close. And the thing is that I think Alakazam has become Beater's win con. The only issue is that Ditto can always come in. So in comes the Toxapex. Now he knows that he can 1v1 this Drapion. Alakazam actually comes out very interesting, because I really think he needed this Alakazam healthy, but he could potentially set up on this. He could go for a sub or something like that. If he goes for a sub and he has like HP Fire or Focus Blast, we actually see the Psyshock there. And we do see the Focus Blast. It connects and KOs the Ferrothorn, unfortunately for Zombie there. And let's see if this Zombie is able to get lucky with this Alakazam set. We do see this the Psyshock doing a respectable amount of damage. We actually see Recover on Alakazam. Very interesting set that Beater wants to bring here, because he knows he can potentially recover stall on the Toxapex and stuff like that. But of course, Zombie has an Umbreon, so I guess that's what the Focus Blast is really there for. You see the Psyshock is doing a respectable amount of damage, of course. It doesn't look like this Alakazam can really touch itself, so I think Zombie really wanted to just gain some more health there. Do you see the Psyshock, the Payapa Berry reducing that damage it'll do about 50% with the next hit. Um, and I'm not too sure if this well, Toxapex. I don't know if it looks like a roll. It could potentially take him out eventually. Um, but I don't know exactly what Zombie's plan here is, because I don't think Lando coming back in is able to take on this Alakazam either. Drapion gets forced in, and potentially taking this Psyshock here, or recover. Nope. So I think that this Ditto is going to get sacked off here. He actually doesn't, and he decides to pull a switch into the Toxapex. Still very nice. Of course, Pex can regenerate out if he wants to. We do see another knockoff. We could see a recover. And I really don't know what Zombie's plan is here. Landorus becomes Death Water for Alakazam later. So Zombie could potentially have to sack off some things here to this Alakazam. It's not going to take any kind of damage from these hazards at all. There goes the Toxapex. This could just be the game, if I had to guess. Unless Zombie can PP stall out this this Alakazam, and Beater making the right plays and going for Focus Blast instead. We do see the Psych Off. Very interesting. The Landorus actually is going to get sacked off right here. Unless he's Scarf. I'm not too... No, he's not Scarf. So, I think this is game. I think Beater actually takes this match because of the fact that Alakazam cannot PP stall this... unless it could be close. No, we do see the Beater can continuously just recover on this Alakazam because of the fact that Zombie only gets 5 PP for Psyshock. So I think that's going to be the game, guys. It's going to go to Beater Gate with the continuous recover stalling here. I don't think it's exactly what Zombie wanted to have happen, but he did a really nice job breaking down Beater's team in the early game, especially with getting up all his layers of hazards, but he just could not break this Alakazam, and unfortunately he has to just forfeit there. Had he brought the Umbreon, it might have been a different game, but that's just going to be the match, guys. So good game to both players, of course, and Beater actually moves on to the next round. So.